Dave Sonntag leads marketing and communications at Gonzaga University, which includes oversight of the university's brand, web properties, marketing services, and community relations. Prior to that, Dave was director of marketing for Eastern Washington University, as well as served as an account manager for 2 regional marketing and public relations firms, including Vestel Haiti Communications, working with sectors ranging from healthcare to technology. He has been with his alma mater, Gonzaga, since 2008, where he has grown the marketing and communications department, helped launch the Gonzaga Will Capital campaign, led the university's 125th anniversary celebration, and a comprehensive rebrand of the university. Dave has served as president of the Spokane Marcom Association, serves on the board of the Arc of Spokane, and is a member of the Higher Ability Spokane management team. In today's presentation, Dave is going to talk about how Gonzaga leveraged the Final Four for brand success. Please help me give a warm welcome to Dave Sonntag from Gonzaga.
Okay, so I was debating whether to use this or not. So I'll give this a try, and if I'm doing too many hand motions and this flies at you, Emily, I apologize.
I'll be ready.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to kind of share some of the stories, a little bit behind the scenes of what went on in that crazy March Madness last year. So who here is excited for college basketball in Spokane this year?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we've got a pretty good thing going on, you know, and it's not just Gonzaga University. We got the Eagles, okay, we got the Cougars are doing pretty good this year, we got the Pirates, you know, so this is just really an amazing higher education community. And especially with basketball, we're really becoming known nationwide, whether it's Hoop Fest or collegiate basketball. It is really cool. So I know not everybody is probably a basketball fan here today. Maybe some of you, God forbid, are not Zag fans, okay? We can accept that. But hopefully there's going to be some takeaways for you this morning regardless. But I do hope that you may know that Gonzaga University was in the national championship game for basketball back in April of 2017. Hopefully you heard a little bit about that. And where I want to start this morning is a couple of kind of brutal truths about that national championship. And if you happen to be a North Carolina fan, they might be a little bit more brutal. Is there anyone here who's a North Carolina fan? Be brave. No? Hey, this is a good crowd. I can really give you the scoop here. Okay. Couple brutal truths. Truth number 1. Okay, here on the left, we've got this beautiful shot of the University of North Carolina. And on the right, we have an equally beautiful shot of President Thane McCullough. So what the heck is the relationship here? And this is a brutal truth. Okay, so last spring, President McCullough's daughter, for her school project, was doing a genealogy project, okay? So she was researching the McCullough family history. And she's a great student, as you can imagine. She really dug into this, and she was following President McCullough's lineage back, and she got all the way back to England. So President McCullough's great, I don't know how many greats there, but direct descendant came over from England to the New World, and he struck a deal to do this. So they said, yeah, we'll give you 1.3 million acres in the New World if you bring over 1,200 Protestants and you colonize and you spread the word. So it was like, great, I'll do that. So I only have so much time here. I'm not going to go into all this, but he came over the New World. Things didn't go that great. They didn't go as planned. Many reasons. The least of which, this little thing called the American Revolution. You know, he found himself on the wrong side of that whole affair. So that happens. His land is seized. Okay, it's taken away. It's taken away. And it changes hands a few times. Ends up falling into the hands of the people who established the University of North Carolina. This is a true story. The people who established the university wound up with President McCullough's land. So he could legitimately make a claim that he owns the land that the university is on. And this is where I say you know, the brutal truth here is that North Carolina had no right to be in that game. I don't even know if they have a right to be a university. Okay? I mean, it should be like Gonzaga University's Eastern Branch campus, don't you think? All right, so enough of that. That's truth number one. Okay, brutal truth number two, and this might be equally shocking. You ready for this? Okay, so Gonzaga did not lose the national championship. Oh, really? They didn't lose. Now, some of you may have been there. I was there. You may have watched on TV, and you may have seen some very tragic things in the last few minutes of that game. There were turned ankles. There were errant whistles that, dare I say, shouldn't have been blown. Okay, but you look up at the scoreboard, and yes, you know, the numeric value next to North Carolina was greater than the numeric value next to the words Gonzaga University. All right? But we did not lose. That was a game, okay? This was the national championship. This is what Gonzaga Marketing and Communications cared about. And so what you're seeing here is the brutal truth that Gonzaga won on Google. So don't read anything politically into this. I'm not here to make political statements this morning. But Gonzaga is the red states here, and North Carolina is the blue states. And this is the day of the national championship. And what this is showing is how many people searched for which school on Google on that day. And so this is really cool. Most of the country searched for Gonzaga University on Google as opposed to North Carolina. And of course, there can be many, many reasons for that. We could sit and ponder and surmise many different reasons for that. We think it's fantastic, and we also feel like we did some things to kind of stoke that fire. You know, for people wanting to figure out what's Gonzaga about, let's search for Gonzaga University. And then even more importantly, we feel like we did some things where, you know, what are these people going to see when they Google Gonzaga? So we try to be really intentional about that and not just let this happen. You know, not just sit back and say, okay, everybody's going basketball crazy, going nuts, Googling us like crazy, let's watch the numbers rise. You know, we really tried to do something about it. So a little bit more on that web traffic. So people are Googling us. Well, we wound up having 2 million people over the course of those 5 weeks on Gonzaga's website. So that's gonzaga.edu and our marketing website. Throw in another million if you want gozags.com. So now we're up to 3 million people. Our record day was the national championship day, where we had almost 342,000 people on the Gonzaga site on that one day. And luckily, and some of these charts show this, but I'm not going to get into that, we've very fortunately had this experience over the years where we've done well in the tournament, and we have experienced our website going down. Yeah, that happened, I think it was when we played Duke back in the Elite Eight a few years ago, and so we really learned from that. And now we get together with IT several weeks in advance. We move some things to different servers and all of that. But phenomenal web traffic, and that really brings me to one of my main points here today of yes, build the plan. Okay, so my point is things happen sometimes that are out of our control. And hopefully you find them to be opportunities. And my point is to look for these opportunities. Now I know that not everybody is as fortunate to have a basketball team that's out there traveling the country on ESPN a couple times a week. We're very fortunate to have that and to seize that opportunity. But I believe that a lot of organizations do have opportunities if they're open to seeing them and thinking about them, you know, in a way that, can this bring attention to what's distinct about my company or my organization? Or, you know, is something happening in the news or with a client? Are we being bought out. You know, that could be good or bad, but how could you use that? How could you leverage that? Is there new leadership coming in? So really spending the time, and this is hard to do in the work that we have with the deadlines and the limited resources, but spending the time to look ahead and think about what's happening, what could be an opportunity that we could seize as an organization. So for us, it was a bit more concrete, like number ones on the towers and buildings lit up in Spokane, and it was so awesome when Gonzaga reached number one in the country last year. And at that time, we knew, okay, this could be the year. Yeah, maybe this is the year. And there's that sort of talk going around, except senior night, season's almost over, last home game, we're ranked number one in the country. Does anybody know what happened? Who here is a Brigham Young University alum or fan? This is a really good room. Nothing against BYU, but not very happy with what happened in that game. Still not very happy with them. So we lose on senior night, and that sort of changed the dynamic a little bit. But our team thought, well, you know, if we still get a number one seed in the NCAA tournament, we committed that we were going to plan to go all the way. You know, okay, if we get this number one seed, we're just going to put the faith in this thing, and we're going to plan to be in the Final Four. And Selection Sunday came around. We wound up a number one seed, and our team really kicked into high gear. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of team members here this morning. We're doing another little thing that is involving rolling out a new website for Gonzaga in a few weeks here. So not many here, but I do want to recognize Bethany and Kate. If you guys could stand up, please, and give Bethany and Kate a round of applause. They are representing our 19-person marketing and communications team that really went into high gear when we received that number one seed for the tournament. And it was a time period where we were truly working very long days, every day of the week. We saw each other on the weekends. We were texting each other every hour, every weekend. We were planning for that Final Four. We were researching venues. We were going to get the best venue in Phoenix, and I believe that we did. We were planning the events. We were going out and getting sponsors. You know, a lot of this very conditional. I've never used the word would or could or maybe so many times. You know, we didn't want to jinx anything. But the plan was put together. You know, for every game we had a scenario of what if we won, what if we lost, what graphics roll out on social media, what stories do we tell, how does the website change, every scenario for a win or a loss. And fortunately, we used the win scenario all the way until the very end when our loss scenario was our thank you campaign. So much of the work was what I just described and the team was involved with. But the other layer of work was even above that. It was the branding work that I really want to focus on with the rest of my time here. And that was work that we've really got in the habit of putting together in the fall and through the winter each year, knowing that we have this March Madness opportunity. So we already have a lot of things in place, but at that point in time, we knew we needed to ramp it up. We needed to get more resources and to really make the most of that campaign. So I want to tell you a little bit about that. How did we leverage this opportunity? So of course we have goals, and hopefully you can see those pretty well. In a nutshell, we wanted to communicate our brand promise, and we have this brand platform that we call Unfold. So we wanted to get that out there. We wanted to be bold with it, but we don't want to be seen just as basketball, you know, which is really difficult for Gonzaga. And I don't mean that in a way to be offensive to athletics or basketball, but we need to be just as much about the academics here and our academic perception. So we wanted to try and boost that through this whole journey. And of course, we're in the middle of a capital campaign. It's a very competitive environment for enrollment, as those of you know in higher education. So we really had to boost those aspects as well. So who are our audiences? It's really hard in higher education because you always say, well, my audiences are everybody. I got to tell everybody this. And it was that, but with this opportunity of basketball, we thought, okay, we're going to focus on the universe of people who are following college basketball. Because we know within that universe, there's parents, and there's high school students, and there's donors, and there's alums. We want to talk to them. We want to play into this excitement that they have about basketball, hook them with that, but then show them some other aspects of the university. What's it like to be a part of this community? What kind of academics do we have? What kind of projects do faculty and students work on? Here's a shot of the tactics that we use to do that. So we place ads on ESPN, television ads, and we do have limited resources to do that. So we pick key markets where we have a lot of alums, and we believe that we're going to see a lot of prospective students. So here in Spokane, if you watch the game on ESPN, you usually don't see our ad. Digital campaign, March and April, social media throughout the time period, and we did some print as well in the NCAA tournament program, in the Inlander and the Spokesman Review. Okay, so this strategy is a classic funneling strategy. Okay, so we know, and you can guess, if your team is in a championship situation, yes, people are going to be checking you out. They're going to say, what's this place all about? They're going to be Googling you. Well, we wanted to take all of that traffic that you saw and really funnel it to a place where we could share other kinds of stories. And we used the social media and the digital and the traditional media to drive people to this Unfold microsite. So unfold.gonzaga.edu. Check it out later. This is a snapshot of the homepage. So you get there, there's a great video I'll play for you in a little bit. And there's an array of stories. And we sprinkle in a few student-athlete stories, but the majority of the stories are about students and faculty and alumni. And we try to tell them in a real succinct, exciting way. We know the kinds of folks who are Googling us and coming here. We don't want to bury them with a lot of academic jargon. You can see that we had 641,000 people visited our microsite during the tournament last year, so during about a 5-week span. And they came from all over the country, which was really cool to see. You can see those big bubbles. You know, Southwest, East Coast, and the best day for the microsite was during the Final Four. This number that you see up in the corner here is how many people were on the microsite during the South Carolina Final Four game. We hit 13,000 people at one point. And the really cool thing about the microsite is it's designed so that there aren't a lot of options. You look at our stories, and then you have 3 options. You can learn about enrollment through BIAZAG, you can learn about hiring one of our graduates through HireAZAG, and you can learn about supporting scholarships for our students through SupportAZAG. So there's just 3 options once you get there. And so we saw a lot of that traffic funneled in here and then funneled into one of those options. We had over 6,000 referrals to the admissions site during those 5 weeks, many of which turned into applications. So that was really cool to see. I'm going to play a fun video for you here. And I think this was made by Jeff Bunch on our web team. This is Jeff watching the analytics during the South Carolina game, really cheering for us to hit 10,000. We ended up hitting 13,000, but it's just kind of fun to see. Oops, wrong way. Fun to see in that moment.
Let's go. There we go. Look at Tim.
So I don't think Jeff would mind me saying, that he's kind of a marketing and analytics nerd, right? This is what we do. He wasn't watching the screen on TV. He was watching the screen of Google Analytics and cheering for 10,000. But that was so fun, and these numbers are just so cool. From just thinking about technology and thinking about sociology and human behavior, and what people are doing is they're watching games, they're on their mobile phone, and they're searching for things. And think about that. People always have that device with them, and what does that mean for your business or your organization? What are people doing where maybe they are searching for something that may be related to what you do? So, during the tournament, as we plan for a Final Four, hoping that we're there, we put together the guts of a Final Four website. Praise the Lord, it came to fruition, and we created this Final Four site, and we created it on the same platform as that Unfold microsite. So this is the place that people went to buy their ticket packages, to see our sponsors, to see video and photo galleries, to read stories. And the nice thing is it was right there on that platform. You could easily click over to the Unfold site stories. And again, those 3 links of the actions that we really want people to be taking. So I mentioned the video, and that's really, video, as you all know, is so important and such a great way to get the engagement and to funnel people where you would like them to go. This is the video that we utilized last year to do that. We pushed this out on social and YouTube. It was on the top of the Unfold site. I'm really proud that our marketing and communications team produced this video completely from the ground up with concept, shooting, editing, the whole deal. So I'll let you take a look at it. So you don't see a whole lot of basketball in the video, and that's really our intent. And we do different things with our brand video each year. Last year, we really wanted to strike a tone of, reality, and just about every shot there was candid, where we were out and about just trying to capture these moments where things unfold, and sometimes they're emotional, they're not the greatest moments, sometimes they're really great, they're people coming together. And we just wanted to show, an authentic way, kind of what this community is like, and just show that other side of Gonzaga that people aren't seeing when they watch the basketball. But hopefully tied in also to what they see, when our student athletes speak, they talk about the community and the family of the team, and we always try to hit those same touch points with the pieces that we put out. We also utilize pre-roll video, so 15-second video spots that we put out on banner ads and YouTube and so forth. So as people are searching, there again, some of our videos are popping up. This particular video featured Ben Joyce, one of our alums that we're really proud of, doing amazing artwork. So we try to pick some things that are visually interesting, that are different, maybe a little bit unexpected from Gonzaga, and use those things to drive people to our microsite. We do the same thing with social media, and we were out on Facebook and Twitter and Snap and Instagram, all of those things, and saw amazing metrics. In the interest of time, I just grabbed this Instagram slide here. Gosh, you can see, but over almost 1,700 new follows in those 5 weeks, 51,000 engagements in those 5 weeks. We had ridiculous Facebook numbers as well, especially when we went live from events. That was a really great tactic. And what we really wanted to do with the social media is the timing was so important. And you all know this when things are going on, to really think about time of day. What are people doing? When will they be most attuned to your message? So we would put out these messages on game day most often, and we'd try to pick just the right time, maybe a few hours before game time. And we would play into that excitement of people following Gonzaga that day, but we would talk about things like academics. So this middle post here with Madison, it says, "Our Zags are ready for today's challenge. Here's another Zag that overcame her challenges and is helping others do the same. Read Madison's story with the link in our bio." So we're kind of, the hook is, okay, we're excited about basketball today, and we know it's going to be a big challenge. And then we sort of, make that transition over, here's a student who overcame some challenges. And we found that that can really be effective. And we've really tried to hone that, so we're not too forceful or abrupt with it, but we do that in a balanced way, that it doesn't feel forceful to the people who are following us. Another great social media opportunity we had was with ESPN. And when we did make the Final Four, we had the blessing of ESPN calling and say, okay, we want to come to Spokane for a week. We want to hang out here. This is like basketball central, and we want to be a part of this. Sarah Schwering, who's our Senior Director of Marketing Communications, played a huge role in all of this, and especially in the ESPN social media piece. And she fully seized that opportunity. They asked to say, hey, can you just steer us in the right direction? Well, Sarah created literally a day-by-day plan for them, and they used it. They don't know Spokane as well. They're looking for great ideas, and she mapped out stories for every day. I'm going to play a great video that was a result of Sarah's work with them.
I never actually truly thought I'd see the day that these guys would be in a championship game.
The whole town erupted as soon as the game was over.
This town has been set on fire.
Zag fever is Spokane fever. When you have somebody winning like this institution is, and this whole community, we all come together, and it's a fever pitch.
Having a school that's only got 5,000 students make it to the championship game against a powerhouse like North Carolina.
I don't think it's going to sink in until probably tip off tomorrow night, and then you're actually going to realize you're playing for the national championship.
We're hoping for a Zags win, praying for a Zags win.
This town will go crazy.
The city's in Lake Street, and the Zags are winning it.
Go Zags!
Go Zags! Go Zags!
I mean, Mark Pugh said, might as well win it. So let's make it happen.
So they did all sorts of pieces like that, more videos, more vignettes. The ESPN assets on social media alone had 1.9 million views and likes. We had over 300,000 video starts on ESPN.com. Our digital marketing did the same work for us that our social media did, driving people to the microsite. We had a similar approach with some of those ads featuring men's and women's basketball or cheerleaders or kennel club, but many of the ads featuring students and alums as well, and getting folks to that microsite. Traditional news media, also huge for us. And this was a huge planning piece. Mary Joan Hahn and Pete Tormey in our news and public relations area, you know, once we learned we're that #1 seed, they really went to work about thinking of story angles, okay? We know everybody's gonna be calling. They're gonna wanna talk about basketball. How can we talk basketball, but also pull in our brand values, who we are as a community, what sort of academics do we have? So they really went to work on thinking about story angles that can do that. Some of them had to do with the international aspects of our student athletes, how we have we have students from all over the world. They talked about the academic prowess of our student athletes, which was just so cool. You know, we're tops in the nation when it comes to the academic performance of our athletes, including the men's basketball team. And so you can see some of these headlines here reflected some of that. How did Gonzaga get its name? Rob Curley, it's all academic for this #1 seed, as Gonzaga puts class in class act. Some of these other stories around the country, the Catholic Sun, faith at the Final Four. You know, so talking about service projects that we did in Phoenix, we held Mass in Phoenix for our constituents who were there. You know, these are things that they didn't always see at the Final Four, and so we were able to tell that story. What's it like when this little Catholic Jesuit university shows up on the big stage? So speaking of Spokesman Review, I just have to kind of give a plug here for Rob Curley. Has anyone heard Rob Curley speak? Yeah, a few of you. It's a real treat. I think you would agree, and I would recommend anyone who has that opportunity to do so. I really feel like Rob is a gift to the Spokane community. He is a true champion of this community, and if you think about it, newspaper editors, I don't know that people usually think of them that way. You know, they're out to find the story, dig up the dirt, you know, create some controversy to sell papers, and that's really not what Rob is about. He's more about what is it that makes this community unique and distinctive, and he wants to dig into things like agriculture, and he wants to dig into things like Gonzaga basketball, thank goodness. And I couldn't help myself but snap a picture of this slide and circle Gonzaga, Gonzaga, Gonzaga. Here Rob was talking about some of the things that he feels has contributed to the resurgence and the growth of the Spokesman Review. And his point here with Gonzaga is part of his philosophy when he comes into a new region of finding what's kind of the drug, you know, in that community, the thing that people can't get enough of, that makes them feel good, you know, and that's just so nice about Gonzaga basketball when it's cold and it's dark out, is when our season gets going. And I think it is something that is hope for people, something to look forward to, something that reflects the values of the community. And that's what Rob had identified Gonzaga basketball as. And so fortunate for us, the team and the values of the team and the people who follow the team. So we put a thank you ad, of course, in the Spokesman Review. We finally had to roll out that thank you campaign after the national championship game. And it was just really important for us to express that kind of gratitude to the community for showing up. You know, we weren't sure how we would show up in Phoenix, and I was blown away. You know, the North Carolina social before the championship game was right beside ours. This was an outdoor social. We kept looking over there and like, is that really their social? And I'm not kidding. You know, we had thousands. I think we'll see the slide. We had over 5,000 people attend between our two pregame socials. We showed up, and it happened all around Spokane as well. And we couldn't be more grateful. And of course, the university has seen some great higher level outcomes from all of this activity that you've seen here. So, enrollment. And this is a measure of really right after those 5 weeks. We saw the inquiries on our website up 25%. This fall, we saw a class come in that exceeded our target by 7% and was the strongest academic class that we've ever had. Now, you know, the work of our team and the branding, absolutely not taking any measure of full credit at all for these sorts of things. It's everything. You know, it's the exposure, it's what we did with that exposure, it's what our colleagues in admissions and fundraising and everyone else did. But it's really cool that we attracted the attention and funneled into the right place these high-performing students who want to be at a place like Gonzaga. And we saw that unfold. Fundraising, I mentioned we're in the middle of our $250 million capital campaign. That tournament really helped us. You know, we were at socials and venues visiting with people that we hadn't seen in years, you know, and that showed up. And we put a lot of effort into throwing these socials, which aren't easy to do. And we had alums step up and host them in their homes. And we had these conversations. We talked about what we want to do here at Gonzaga, how we want a performing arts facility, how we want students to come here who maybe don't have the economic means to be at a place like Gonzaga. We need to furnish the scholarship. So you can see the numbers, and these numbers are just from those 5 weeks. The increase in donors, increase in members of the Athletic Giving Club, all of the campaign donors who attended events. From an engagement standpoint, I mentioned 5,000 plus people at our pregame events. We had people wanting to join alumni chapters in droves. We had different areas of the country calling and saying, hey, can we start an alumni chapter? Sure, why not? Let's do it. So we've got alumni chapters all over in every little nook and cranny. This is really cool. 3 times more employers posted jobs on our website during that time period, and that's just so cool. And we also had some new software at the time that was rolled out with some very good timing that helped make that happen. But that was squarely with one of our goals. We had the record-breaking game watches here in Spokane and at McCarthy, and a great welcome home rally for the team when they came back from Phoenix. So to wrap up, what are the steals? What can you maybe take from all of this? And a couple of these I've talked about. So, you know, the idea of what can you leverage, and really take the time, have a session with your team where you just ponder. If it's coffee that gets you going, do it. If it's wine, but have that session, think ahead, envision what's happening in your industry, what's happening in the world. Do you have new leadership coming in? Do you have a new client that may have this awesome story to tell? How can you help them tell that? Stories build brands. And as you can see here, we have the potential with social media and the web, if done right, to have incredible reach for your stories. And therefore, your brand can have this incredible reach. So build that plan, point number 2. You know, it may feel like you don't have the resources. You're not sure if this thing is going to happen. But I really urge you to build the plan. It doesn't have to have every perfect point figured out. Have a solid few goals and objectives. Have some solid outcomes that may happen if you did this. Some ideas of strategies and tactics. And leave it there. See if you can pitch that to your leadership. Show them that you can envision, brainstorm, see opportunity, ask for the resources. Let them know what it would take to seize the opportunity that you see. And I think if you put that out there, you show the work, it just might happen for you. My last point, something that we weren't as on top of was unintended consequences. When you're taking advantage of something that you don't have complete control of, there are things that can happen that are unexpected, maybe you didn't foresee. So I think it's really worth listening carefully, you know, to that social media chatter, what's being heard by your constituents at an event. Even if it's 1 or 2, maybe there's more talking about that. For us, what we discovered after all of this was over, we discovered that a lot of our constituents were feeling like, okay, the tournament's over the next week, NCAA truck backs up to Gonzaga University and literally dumped cash on us. Just didn't happen. You know, people feel like, oh my gosh, you made the national championship game. You guys are set. Of course that building's going to go up. Of course you're going to have the scholarship funds. My $100 no longer means anything. That's a real problem for us. And we could go into how the funding works with all of this, but certainly no cash came to us. We spent a ton of cash. What happens when teams win in the tournament, they get credits. And in our WCC conference, those credits are shared amongst all the schools over a period of several years. So funds that come to us are more in the couple 100,000 range each year, not, you know, the loads that people think. And we can't necessarily apply them to scholarships. So that was something that we had to understand and really kind of start a new campaign of educating folks about the economics of the situation and what it really meant. So be ready for those unintended consequences. And with that, I think we're getting down to ending time. We may have time for a question or two, but I really appreciate your time, and hopefully that kind of gave you a feel for what happened behind the scenes and how we endeavored to take advantage of this great opportunity. So thank you.